Raise your fist together. I am somebody. I may be poor, but I am somebody.
Red and yellow, brown, black, and white. We're all precious in God's sight. Everybody is somebody. Stop the violence. Save the children. Stop bullying. Save the children.
Hold your head high. Stick your chest out. You can make it. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive. Keep hope alive.
What I want to do right now is just go ahead and present our next presenter. She has continued to blow me away with her brilliance, her consciousness, her connection to community, and I especially appreciate the fact that all that she does, one of the things she likes to say, she said, I'm not a faith leader, I'm a leader with faith. And as far as I'm concerned, she's a faith leader. And she walks profoundly in the footsteps and on the shoulders of her beloved late dad, Dr. William Augustus Jones Jr. She is the embodiment of God in the ghetto and what that looks like in these streets, especially giving a voice to those who have no voice, our children and the poor. And the work that she is doing in New York City is to be modeled and lifted up. Most recently, what blew me away is the fact that New York City, under her leadership, formed a racial justice commission. Through the racial justice commission, they put forth a ballot proposal that literally changed the structure there in New York City and what that looks like economically. And so I want her to unpack that for us. She's conscious, she's connected, she's a Christian, she's just a bad sister. I want to present to you the amazing, the phenomenal, my sister, Jennifer Jones Austin.
I should have come up here a little sooner because he started making promises that I may not be able to keep. But I'm going to do my best. I'm going to try my best. Good morning. I don't know what time of day it is. You know, I had a daddy who rose early and went to bed early, and he traveled extensively. And so I learned as a little girl that if I wanted to spend time with him, then I needed to rise early and go to bed early. Well, you know, it's not every day that one of your buddies becomes president of the Rainbow Push Coalition, but what results when that happens is you don't go to bed early, but you still wake up early. So I am a little tired, but you all are going to fuel me, and we're just going to have a conversation this morning. So I think I'm good. I appreciate you. That's my girl, always taking care of me. That's my girl. I want you all to know that I feel blessed to be able to be a part of this conversation, to be a part of anything, frankly, that Reverend Freddie Haynes does, because there's always a blessing in it for me, no matter how much I get pour out. So let's get to work. Let's say a little bit, talk a little bit about the underpinnings of structural racism. What I want to talk to you about is transforming systems to bring about justice. We're going to talk about the lessons that can be learned to plot the pathway forward. Now, the first thing we need to hold on to is this appreciation that Rainbow Push Coalition is in many ways the offspring of the movement's fight for economic justice. Reverend Jackson would tell you that the March on Washington was for jobs and freedom. Very often when you hear people talk about the March on Washington, they leave off jobs and freedom. Economic rights are a civil right. Economic justice was just as important as voting, equal access to public accommodations, fair housing, and the ending of discrimination. Thus the reason, tell me if I'm wrong, Reverend Jackson, for Operation Breadbasket, the economic justice arm of the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. Reverend Jackson was the national president of Operation Breadbasket, and its primary aim was to confront and end economic injustice that had been perpetuated by companies that were doing business in, benefiting significantly from Black Americans. Under Reverend Jackson's leadership, Operation Breadbasket utilized several impactful strategies, one of which was central to the movement, that of education, equipping on-the-ground soldiers with the information needed to effectively engage, mobilize, and take action. Reverend Jackson continued this strategy with Rainbow Push Coalition. And as this gathering evidences here today, Dr. Haynes is committed to doing the same, educating as he mobilizes and then taking action. You got to hold on to that. So here's what happened. About 10 years ago, on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, I was blessed to stand at the Lincoln Memorial, where Dr. King stood and delivered that monumental termed "I Have a Dream" speech. I stood before a sea of people, just like King did, privileged, honored, humbled, a little scared, to add my words to the clarion call for justice. And here's what I said in the time allotted me. I am a daughter of the civil rights movement. And as a daughter of the movement, I am the beneficiary of all the good that resulted from the hard work, the sweat and blood and tears that were shed by the leaders and doers of the movement. And as a daughter and beneficiary, I now am the burden bearer of this generation's civil rights movement. You too are the burden bearers. For as Dr. King and Reverend Jackson and other selfless leaders taught us, our work will not be done until all of God's children are free. They didn't march for just some to have jobs. They marched for all to have jobs. They didn't march for just some to have a quality education. They marched for all to have a quality education. They didn't march for just some to be free of the burdens of poverty. They marched for all to be free. And so we come together to pick up the burdens that have been laid down by the leaders and the doers that have gone on to their reward, and to stand with our leaders of today, to commit and recommit ourselves to the war against poverty, the war against gun violence, the war against continuing discrimination on the basis of race, sexual orientation, immigration, and gender, the war against the disenfranchised, and the war against injustice that threatens the present and the future of our children. As a nation, we've demonstrated that we can do just about anything we put our minds to. Ending poverty, gun violence, discrimination, and injustice should be no different. It is our burden. It is our responsibility. And together, we can. In that moment when I declared, I am a daughter of the civil rights movement, I was speaking literally and figuratively. Figuratively, a daughter of the movement, a child of the generation that followed Dr. King's, a generation poised to reap the benefits of those who gave and risked it all in the crusade for equality and justice in the 50s and 60s. Literally, my father was Reverend Dr. William Augustus Jones, Jr. He was a faith and civil rights leader who also served as president of the New York chapter of SCLC and Operation Breadbasket. Together with Dr. King, he and a handful of other ministers founded the Progressive National Baptist Convention in 1961, because what they were seeking to do was advance a social justice and civil rights agenda in Black Baptist churches. As Dad's daughter, I witnessed the movement at a very young age. So what becomes of a daughter, a child, Jesse Jr., who's part of the movement, who's seen the movement for 30 years now? I too am 37. I started at 7. Yeah. So for 30 years, I've been working. I've been blessed to work at the national, the state, and the local levels on laws, policies, and programs affecting children, individuals, and families in crisis. I know that I've been positioned by God, nothing but God, to be in the right places at the right times. And what I've been able to do, healthy food for the hungry at the state, federal, and local level. Housing for the unhoused, jobs with living wages, increasing I helped move the wage in New York City. Child care and full-day universal pre-kindergarten for the youngest. I designed universal pre-kindergarten in New York City for 70,000 children. Shelter for victims of domestic violence and more humane treatment for the incarcerated. I've had a rewarding career. Service with hugely impactful movements, all of which have taught me valuable lessons, which I appreciate all the more, are critical to movement, leadership, service, and building, especially in these challenging times. So here's what I'm going to do for the next little while. I'm going to center on lessons learned that can help us chart the pathway forward. First lesson. Growing up, my father would often say to his 4 children, gain knowledge, gain power. Simple, basic concept, right? Gain knowledge, gain power. We as a people have bear witness to an ongoing centuries-long effort to curtail our ability to gain knowledge and with it power. Since the days when our ancestors were enslaved and denied the opportunity to read and write, the effort to curtail our knowledge and power has been in full swing. Many believe that, 70 years ago, with the 1954 Supreme Court decision in Brown versus Board of Education, we'd finally secured the right in grade schools throughout the United States to build knowledge. Yet still today, our children's ability to read and write and to do basic math skills, all skills necessary for gaining knowledge and power, is significantly curtailed. You ready for this? I tripped up because every time I think about this stat, it blows my mind. Across this nation, only 15% of black students are reading proficient. Only 16% math proficient. The high school graduation gap between blacks and whites has closed. It's down to 2%. And everybody gets excited about that. But what good is a high school diploma if our children can't read? In Selma, Reverend Haynes mentioned Selma. Selma, Alabama, the public high school in Selma has a 93% graduation rate. Sounds pretty good. The public high school, 98% black students. The reading level at high school graduation in 12th grade, 12%. Math, 7%. Now, as an aside, we need to take that up because Selma, I think, is being punished. Punished for its role in the movement. So we got kids down there graduating high school, and they can't read and write.
Join us for the Saturday Morning Forum, Saturday, March 16th at 10 a.m. Meet the candidates and hear the people's agenda. Scan the QR code and register today or go to rpccandidatesforum.eventbrite.com. This is your opportunity to speak to the candidates and let them hear your agenda. Join us Saturday, March 16th, 10 a.m. and meet the candidates and hear the people's agenda.
Push Excel strives to be a world leader in promoting educational excellence and equity so that every child is guaranteed an opportunity to receive a quality education. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. And you can help young people achieve a higher education by donating to Push Excel right now. Wherever you are, you can support our students as we keep pushing for you.
Attention high school seniors and college freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. If you are in need of financial assistance, Push for Excellence offers a variety of scholarships for which you may be eligible to apply. Whether it's the Jesse Jackson Fellows Toyota Scholarship, the Cirillo McSween New York Life Scholarship, or the Oralee Sanders Scholarship, Push for Excellence strives to offer something for everyone. Here are just a few of our scholarship recipients.
Hello everyone viewing, my name is Chidi Osakwe.
Dominique Davis.
Julian Jones.
China Mason.
Miles Chairman.
Jalen Clark.
Marcus Anderson.
Jaden Reed.
Kari Young.
Ms. Megan Chu, and I'm a Cirillo McSween Scholar.
I want to take this opportunity to thank Reverend Jesse Jackson for all his support of my college education.
Thank you for all of Toyota for helping with Reverend Jackson with the scholarship as well.
I just want to take the opportunity to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson for helping to make the scholarship opportunity possible for me.
As appreciative as I was before, I'm even more grateful now having received this scholarship.
Not only has it helped me out financially with paying for tuition, but it has also awarded me the opportunity to learn more about the Rainbow Push Coalition and their different initiatives in the African American community.
I'd like to say thank you to Reverend Jesse Jackson and the Rainbow Push Coalition for all the generosity and support that they've shown me throughout my undergraduate career and for the opportunity to pursue higher education.
For more information, please visit our website at www.pushexcel.org and click on the word scholarships. Thank you, and keep hope alive.
Primary Election Day is March 19th. Vote your values. Get the information you need to vote anywhere in Illinois. Just scan the QR code. Are you registered? How do you plan to vote? What is on your ballot? Your vote is your choice. Use it.
One of the things that blessed me, as I shared earlier, is that shortly after the announcement was made last summer, I received a call from one of my very good friends who pastors First Baptist Church in Bridgehampton on Long Island in New York. First Baptist Church, Bridgehampton, Long Island in New York. Pastor Dixon Williams. Now, I know I talk fast, but I'm going to say it slow. She is the pastor of First Baptist Church. And she called me and said, I'm so excited about what you're going to be doing. Now you need to get us as faith leaders ready for the 24 election. So you do that. And then she said, you know what? It just hit me. You already have enough work to do. I'll do it. And so she literally went and has crafted a curriculum for faith-based activism for the 2024 election. And so I'm so proud of her. And I'm going to ask you now to receive this phenom of a preacher, this gift to each and every one of us, and my dear sister friend, the amazing Pastor Tish Dixon Williams.
Thank you, everyone. I certainly am glad to be in the number, as I always say. Nobody has to invite you to their party, and so I don't take it for granted that I'm invited to this very special party celebrating my friend, Reverend Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes. And so he's right. This is how all of this started, certainly honoring the presence of Reverend Jackson and all of the esteemed folks in this room. They call this high cotton, I believe. All of the esteemed guests in this room. And so Dr. Haynes is absolutely right. That's how it started. We were in conversation about all the exciting things that would be coming up for Rainbow Push, this sort of wonderful, amazing movement, and what's going to be new and revitalized and restored and all these things. And the reason this idea came to me is because as a black pastor, it's what I need. And so it was birthed from a thought that I needed. How do I navigate my people through what I know is going to be a tense, tumultuous, in some cases terrifying election season? And so I began to think about, well, does Rainbow Push have anything in the works around this? And not just for the election season, but we need guidance in so many areas. This is just a place to start. And so I thought, well, wouldn't it be nice to put something together where we're kind of, a syllabus, if you will. If we're kind of led to what we should preach, what we should read, how we can galvanize our people, how we can bring our people together to share facts, what they need to know. Because we can't just rely on, as it was said earlier, a visit from a delegate or from somebody they assigned who is just, a glorified whomever in their camp to tell us what we need to know. We need to do the research and find out what we need to know. Does that make sense to everybody? So I'm going to read the course overview, and then I'm going to ask Dr. Haynes some questions. Dun, dun, dun. And so the syllabus aims to provide preachers and pastors in black churches with guidance on navigating a tumultuous election season while addressing social and racial justice issues within the faith-based context. It combines theological insights, practical strategies, critical race theory, mental and emotional support, and curated resources to equip church leaders in promoting peace, justice, and healing within our congregations. And so we have included scripture references, sermon suggestions, so now we're doing that work for you, recommended reading, and additional resources for further explanation. And so that's what we're working to provide for all of the churches in this election season. And so Dr. Haynes, I want to ask you, what resonated with you about this syllabus when you first heard about it, when we talked?
Well, and let me answer that two ways. Number one, there was an initial reaction that was reinforced by what I heard earlier today when Dr. Breonna Parker talked about the fact that 70% of our church members feel powerless when it comes to social issues. And one of the things that excited me as I was reading through what you presented was that this is, if information is power, then this is a source of power. Not only is it a source of power, but it's baptized with scripture. It's baptized with a scriptural hermeneutic from the bottom up and not from the top down. Yes. It has a liberative approach to looking at scripture, and as a consequence, seeing issues through the lens of a liberative approach to the Bible. And as a consequence, I'm coming into this election season bringing values that are not imputed onto me by white evangelicals, by a Democratic or Republican Party, but values that resonate with my faith, that resonate with what God in Christ has revealed to me. So that got me. Yeah.
And so one of the course objectives, the first one is to understand the intersection of faith, politics, and racial justice during an election season. How many people know that Jesus and justice are not mutually exclusive? That you don't get one without the other. We can't afford to separate them. They have to come together. And so the other thing that we're working to do is equip preachers and pastors with a theological framework rooted in critical race theory. And so we know with the banning of yeah, that's a bad word. But with the banning of books and all of these things that are happening, they're trying to erase our history and erase, I liken it to Paul with the thorn in his side, who was trying to have this thorn removed. We are the thorn in America's side that is trying to have us removed because we're perceived as an irritation or as a handicap. And what they don't understand, like Paul didn't understand, is we're the best asset. Even though we agitate and even though we stir things up, we are America's greatest asset in a whole lot of ways. And so we want to bring that awareness so that people who don't understand critical race theory, we can explain what that is. You can explain that in your churches. What would it look like to make that a Bible study all its own? Does that make sense to everyone? So if you had to teach critical race theory in your church, which I know you do, how would you do that? How would you frame this in this election season?
So it's a blessing that you raised this question. Juan Floyd Thomas looked at the crazy chaos that was stirred up as critical race theory became a lightning rod rooted in lies. First of all, it's not being taught in public schools. Okay, it's a legal framework that Jennifer Jones Austin can teach. And so I think parenthetically, that's my first answer. I'd have someone like Jennifer Jones Austin to provide a faith-based teaching of critical race theory. Because one of the things that is done, and I love the quote by Archbishop Desmond Tutu, how racism is relentless and systems are created to continue to perpetuate themselves. Well, one such way of doing it is through narrative establishing. So you establish a narrative about whatever you want. Woke now is a bad word. It's a 4-letter word because there's a narrative that has been established around it. Critical race theory, a bad word, a bad phrase now because of the lies surrounding it. And so Dr. Juan Floyd Thomas, Dr. Brown, you're going to love it, has a book coming out at the end of the year called Critical Race Theology. Y'all didn't shout. Critical Race Theology. So to wed critical race theology with critical race theory is a powerful piece that gives us an opportunity to snatch the narrative back. And at the same time say, okay, well, when I go to my school board meeting, if you're going to tell me what critical race theory is, let me tell you what it really is, and then give it to you from a baptized perspective of critical race theology. So that's a long way to answer your short question. But the bottom line is that we've got to snatch the narrative back, and that's what you are allowing us to do.
It's like that West African proverb, until the lion tells the story, the hunter will always be the hero. And it is time for us to tell our stories, not just the stories of old, but our story. What's happening in this room is a story. A story is unfolding right now. A year from now, someone will start the story just like, remember that time? Black folks are good at that. Remember that time it was me and you, and we begin to list who. We have to take our stories back. Our stories matter. And when we don't tell our stories, they die with us. So thank you for being a keeper of the story. I want you to know if you lived through pandemic, you are now a keeper of the story. We could write a whole new gospel based on what happened 3 years ago. A whole new gospel. And if we do not tell that story so that the next generation can survive, shame on us, we will have failed. We will have failed. And so we have to keep our stories. We are the keepers of the stories of this time and beyond, because somebody needs to be delivered from our story. And so one of the other strategies that we want to look at in this concept is we want to provide strategies for fostering mental and emotional support within the congregation. And so when Dr. Haynes read this part, he was like, I'm confused. Tell me why you were confused. So tell us
like,
why.
Okay, so now this is a trip. And Reverend Jackson just hollered at me, Jesus, Palestinian Jew. And which in the context of critical grace and race theory becomes quite powerful, born in a Roman context of occupation and oppression, getting lynched by the Roman Empire on Good Friday, and then the stone is rolled away. The stone of Rome that sealed his death is rolled away on Sunday. And Doc, I did a little etymological study. Resurrection at its root is resistance. No, rebellion.
That's it.
And so in critical race theory, what's scary is rebellion of the Palestinian Jew who breaks out of any structure of death created by the empire. Y'all are too full to really get your shout on right there, because that was really good right there. I got to calm down. So what messed me up when I read that was, you had said to me, this is what you said, Tish. You said, faith communities need a way of getting through and navigating the election season. What does our mental health have to do with the election season? It's like, Tish, you went someplace that this ain't got nothing to do with the election. This is just about politics.
Everything to do.
And then you said,
election grief is real. Election grief is real. Because studies have shown that when our preferred candidate loses and they don't win, it triggers a grief reaction. Very similar to that of us losing a loved one. We are crushed in spirit. Let's look at this from the other side. We can safely conclude that January 6th was a maladaptive grief response. Their candidate lost. And we watched them go through every stage of grief. They were angry about it. They were in denial. He didn't lose, he won. What y'all talking about? That's an imposter in the White House right now. He's president right now. We watched negotiating. Well, maybe if we do this, then they'll do it. Maybe if we storm the Capitol, then we can force them to do what we... Grief in an election season is real. And what we also have to be mindful of is that there are people who have gone through the civil rights movement, who have gone through the Voting Rights Act of '65, who are still alive, And so the trauma of that time is still very real to them. And so we cannot bypass that. The trauma of us watching news footage of January 6th is still very real to us, wondering what's going to happen. Because if they can storm the Capitol, they can storm my house. They can storm the Capitol, they can storm my job. They can storm the Capitol, they can kill my loved one on the way home from work, which has happened. And it is triggering for us.
The same organization that you build now is the same organization President Frederick Haynes needs in 2028, 2032, 2036. So when he's President of the United States, we can put some people on the Supreme Court that can give us some social justice.
Be detrimental to your safety to continue this march, and I'm saying that this is an unlawful assembly. You are to disperse. You are ordered to disperse, go home, or go to your church. This march will not continue. Troopers here, advance toward the group. See that they disperse.
On this hallowed ground, on the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge, where 59 years ago, on a cold Sunday morning, 600 brave souls set out from Selma, hand in hand, shoulder to shoulder. They marched for the freedoms that were theirs by birth and theirs by right.
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like.
The challenges we currently face are not unlike the challenges faced by those 600 brave souls 59 years ago. And in this moment, we too then are confronted with a fundamental question: what kind of country do we want to live in? Do we want to live in a country of freedom, liberty, and justice, or a country of injustice, hate, and fear? We each have the power to answer that question with our voice, with our feet, and with our vote.
We're excited to get more people engaged and involved in Rainbow Push, supporting the programs of Push for Excellence and the Citizenship Education Fund. Now, if you're interested in public policy and you want to help change the policies that impact those who are incarcerated, you can do so. If you're interested in impacting public policies that benefit education and businesses with social economic solutions, you can do that as well. You can become a policymaker by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now. Now, if you believe in the scholarships that we've given to thousands of students each year, you can help us out. We've awarded more than $10 million in scholarships year to date. Now, you can help young people achieve a higher education by becoming a member of Rainbow Push right now for the annual fee of only $35. And if you're a student or a senior, it's only $15. You can help us make a difference in the lives of millions. Now, if you watch us every week, or if you listen to us on the radio, or if you're viewing on social media, we need you to become a member. And how do you become a member? It's simple. Visit us at rainbowpush.org and press join. Maybe you'd like to support the work of Push. If so, it's really simple. You can do so by texting the word PUSH, that's P-U-S-H, to 41444 on your cell phone, and you can give any amount that you feel comfortable giving, or you can call us at 773-256-2775 or go to rainbowpush.org and push donate. So whenever you want to support, you can do it from anywhere. So keep pushing, because we're going to keep pushing for you and keep hope alive.
March 19th is primary election day. Ballot question number 1 is about providing funds to help end homelessness in Chicago. Ballot question number 1 is a proposed change to the real estate transfer tax, a one-time tax that is paid when a property is sold. What is the change? RETT will decrease for nearly 95% of property sold, sales below $1 million. RETT will increase for less than 5% of properties sold, sales above $1 million. This change will generate $100 million every year, dedicated to providing affordable housing and supportive services for people who are homeless in Chicago. So don't forget to vote March 19th. Be informed, vote.
Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr., I'll never forget, man. I think it was, 84, 88, of course, we heard you on stage with the fam. I think it was 92 when you spoke yourself at the Democratic National Convention. And it was riveting to hear you give voice to issues that oftentimes don't make it to the stage. And you're still doing it in the tradition of this great man right here, but also on your own terms for such a time as this. And so I want to thank you publicly for your support. I want to applaud you for showing us that there is always another act. There's always another act. We are never defined by what others try to confine us with. There is always another act. I thank you for your resilience. I thank you for your strength. I thank you for your love. I thank you for your spirit. I thank you for your heart. You are Congressman Jesse Jackson Jr. Would you all receive this voice for the disinherited, my brother, Jesse Jackson Jr.
Let me begin by giving honor and praise to God for the privilege of being at this sacred desk, made sacred in large measure because of my friend, our brother beloved, whose ministry has catapulted us to places spiritually we have never been before. In a real sense, we all know that the ascension of President Frederick Douglass Haynes is a turning point in the history of African Americans. But we also know that it is a turning point in the history of this nation and the history of our world. I was asked to bat cleanup on everything that I've heard today and yesterday, and I was particularly honored when Miss Trustee called me and said, "You know you're on the program." And then I called her the day before I arrived in Dallas, and she said, "You have 50 minutes on the program." I shared with her, Mr. President, that Abraham Lincoln delivered the Gettysburg Address in 3.5 minutes. And Martin Luther King Jr. delivered the I Have a Dream speech in 13.5 minutes. And if it cannot be said between Gettysburg and I Have a Dream, it ought not be said at all. But I want to fulfill a charge that I have for the new president of the National Rainbow Push Coalition. In some sense, I have a wonderful speech that I have taken my time to write, and that one day I might get the opportunity to deliver. But given the hour and given the time, I want to try and give a speech that is consistent, Dr. Haynes, with some of the questions that have been asked, that as president of this organization, we might be able to glean from your leadership and provide you the launching pad that you and your family need at this hour in the history of our nation. I looked at the last speech that Martin Luther King Jr. delivered about the mountaintop. And he said in that speech that he had taken a panoramic view of all of human history. And he asked God, the Almighty, who asked him, "Martin, what period in human history would you like to live in?" Dr. King then began talking about a mental flight through all of human history. He said he wanted to begin in Egypt. There he would see a man raise his staff to cross the Red Sea and through the wilderness and on towards the Promised Land, and in spite of its magnificence, he would not stop there. He went to Greece and to Mount Olympus, and he met there with the philosophers of Socrates, Euripides, Aristophanes at the Parthenon, but Greece was not good enough for him. Stopped by the Renaissance, met Michelangelo, met Da Vinci, met the great artists of that period, but he said he couldn't stop there. He said he would even go by the habitat of the home for which he has named and see a minister post 95 theses on the church at Wittenberg. And as profound a moment as it was, it would not force him to stop there. Then he wanted to go by 1863 to see Abraham Lincoln, a vacillating president, but it was not enough for him to stop there. He brought it on up to the 30s, talked about a president who said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself." But he wouldn't stop there. He said he would rather be at this moment in human history. And he said that's a strange statement to make because the world, CK, is all messed up. He said the nation is sick. There's trouble in the land and there is confusion all around. Now, I just want to borrow in my 13.5 minutes left a little quip from a man installed last night. He says a little something like this: if you just give me a little latitude to offer you a Freddie Haynes remix, right now I want to offer you a Jesse Jr. remix, I would turn to the Almighty and I would say, I would like to live just a few days, a few years in the first quarter of the 21st century. when Frederick Douglass Haynes III is inaugurated president and CEO of the National Rainbow Coalition, succeeding the Reverend Jesse Jackson. Why? Because the nation is sick. Because there's trouble in the land, and there is confusion all around. The RPC is a different kind of civil rights organization. It is a different kind of social justice organization. Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes is a different kind of civil rights leader. And that's why I don't call him Freddie. I call him Dr. Frederick Douglass Haynes III. What makes him unique at this hour is that the nation is sick. Democracy is in trouble. And this isn't just about 2024, it's about 2028, it's about 2032, and it's about 2036. Because the first president of the National Rainbow Coalition ran for president of the United States. I know y'all from Texas. But I come to put something on the heart and the mind of Frederick Douglass. Sister Haynes is getting good practice at Friendship West on being a first lady. I did not come here to speak for Freddie. I came here to speak to Frederick Douglass. For whom our new president is named, and whose parents had the consciousness to rename him after a man who was born a slave 206 years ago this month, when the nation was sick. Democracy was in trouble. Lying and misinformation was the order of the day. He had grown up in a slave society, a slave culture, a slave milieu. The people were confused. He was born, James Monroe was the 5th president of the United States. Douglass would live through 11 more presidents, 10 of whom did nothing about slavery. Until he met the 16th president and forced upon that president an evolution of consciousness and ultimately an evolution of his agenda, that the soul of America needed to be saved. In order to be saved, Lincoln realized that he could not wait on Congress. But his own evolution had to become a revolution of thought and heart of mind of the people. Only one Negro in human history has added amendments to the Constitution of the United States. Just one. And his name was Frederick Douglass. I heard questions coming from the audience. What kind of legislation? What kind of policy? Before you can fight for legislation that is constitutional, the Constitution must authorize it. We are not being called to just sponsor and support the John Lewis bill. Haven't y'all figured out since 1965 we got to keep reauthorizing legislation? Why do you have to keep reauthorizing legislation? Because you do not have a constitutional right to vote. You have a state right to vote. You have a Texas right to vote. And you only have it as long as Abbott wants to give it to you. At least 3 times since I've been at the conference, someone has mentioned we need a constitutional amendment to the Constitution guaranteeing the right to vote. I heard my president say it. Someone else said we need to re-enfranchise felons. I didn't say felons don't have the federal constitutional right to vote. I said you don't have the federal constitutional right to vote. You have the state right to vote. And when someone loses an election, they can pick up the phone, call the governor of a state, and say, find me 11,800 plus 1 votes, and we can get this behind us. If all 50 governors did that, we would not have a democracy. Y'all not saying nothing, church. I'm trying to give my president an agenda.
People often ask, why should I vote? And to be honest, voting is a sacred right. And if it wasn't so important, then there would not have been a distinctive effort to minimize one's vote. So while the 2024 election may seem far away, it really is right around the corner. So I want to encourage you to start thinking to yourself, do I have my voter plan together? Do I know where my polling location is? Do I know who's going to be on the ballot this election? And don't just ask this question of yourselves, but I want to encourage you to talk to your family and friends about this as well. Because here's the thing, voting is the one way in which you can actively participate in bringing about the change that you want to see. But to be completely honest with you, voting alone is not enough. It is so important that those of us who can and are willing to do so, that we put forth the effort to assist those in our community who might have challenges at the polls. So if you are interested in assisting others, then I would like to encourage you to participate in election protection. There are so many components to the election protection program. We have a hotline of volunteers who answer questions for those who call in, but we also have an election protection program where we have poll monitors and we have poll watchers. And this is where you can actively participate in your community and be at the polls to assist voters and to monitor what's going on at all times. If this is something that you are interested in, please reach out to us at Common Cause Illinois, where we would love to talk to you more about the program that we have. As I mentioned, it seems like the primaries are far away, but they are just around the corner. So make sure that you're prepared and that you have everything together for you to be able to vote. And the very first step that you need to take to do that is make sure that you're registered. But please be an active participant in this upcoming election, and don't just stop at voting. Try to find some of the various ways that you can get involved, whether it's election protection or other programs that might be out there. And if you yourself are a voter who runs into issues at the polls, then please be sure that around election time and during early voting that you reach out to the hotline 866-OUR-VOTE, and someone will be there to assist you.
Join us for the Saturday Morning Forum, Saturday, March 16th at 10 a.m. Meet the candidates and hear the people's agenda. Scan the QR code and register today, or go to rpccandidatesforum.eventbrite.com. This is your opportunity to speak to the candidates and let them hear your agenda. Join us Saturday, March 16th, 10 a.m. and meet the candidates and hear the people's agenda.
Thank you for tuning in to our International Saturday morning broadcast. We need your support. Here are ways to give to Rainbow Push Coalition. Text PUSH, P-U-S-H, to 41444 to support the work of Reverend Jesse Jackson Sr. and Rainbow Push Coalition.
We are sanctuary. We are.
When I think of Rainbow Push, I think of two words: social justice.
Education advocacy.
Political empowerment.
Freedom and equality.
Corporate partnership.
Stop the violence. Save the children. Don't get in. Shut it down. If we don't get in, shut it down.
Political change.
Inclusion, evolution. Progress, justice.
Jesse Jackson.
Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive. Keep hope. Keep hope alive. Alive.
We want to be bridges to end these cultural gaps.
Going forward. By hope. Not backwards. By fear.